TNT Co-Region Football's Thursday night tailgate. We already talked about all of the Week 8 action and the AFL standings. What we're going to do now is take a look ahead at the Week 9 games. Then we're also going to talk about the district standings and kind of where teams are at this point and what they got to do to hopefully secure a spot. Obviously, we want to see as many AFL teams get in. We're going to talk specifically about districts this week, and then next week, after we got all the Week 9 action down, we got 1 week left, we'll kind of look at the Eastern Conference a little bit as well as that starts to take shape. So Week 9, as always, like we said, we got one team going out of league. This week it's Monterey area. Monterey area sitting at 3-5, 2 very winnable games left. Mm-hmm. And you wonder where they're at if something like 5-5 would give them a shot in districts, probably depending on how some other teams do. But this week, what they're looking at is Columbia, Montour, Votech. CMVT started out the season 0-5, won their last 3. What do you expect from this game?
Well, Monterey needs to get this because CMVT's AAA, so those are big points for Monterey.
Yes, it is.
And, I would just expect Monterey to bounce back. 2 tough games. I'm sure the coaches have said, listen, these are the same mistakes we made in order to lose these 2 games. I guarantee you this week they're not going to let up a special teams touchdown. Right. And I guarantee you they're going to try and cut down on their turnovers. And I think if they can do that, and Mason Evans and Mason Ryan can come up with some big plays like they have been all year. I mean, these guys have been doing big things all year for Monterey. I think they should easily take care of CMBT. Some of these teams that conference with Holy Cross, Bucktail, Carson Long. I think Nativity's always been in that league up there. Yeah, so it's no wonder why CMVT's gotten back on track. But Monterey needs to take care of business this week if they want to keep their hat in the ring there for the district playoffs. I believe they will. I think they're going to bounce back strong this week.
Yeah, I think Monterey cruises this week. You don't schedule these games if you don't think you can win them. So I think Monterey cruises, get back to 4-5 with the chance to go to 5-5 in Week 10.
I agree. I think Monterey takes care of business. CMVT just hasn't played the competition that Monterey has, and I think Monterey is going to, be fired up, ready to go, and look to get in that last week, give themselves a shot. So that's our first game out of league. Columbia Montour coming to Monterey area. Next game, we got a game that both teams, I think, probably have circled. For the last few weeks. Yeah. Probably looking forward to this. We got 2 teams that are 1-7. Panther Valley heading up to Minersville. Both teams are, looking to get their second win and looking at this game as a game that they could and should win. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. At Minersville, McBreen was a bit banged up. We saw Keandre Taylor, a talented freshman, play some quarterback for them. Panther Valley, same boat. We saw Tristan Blasco last week, a freshman. So it's going to be interesting to see how these young squads, match up at this point of the year. That they had, some bumps in the road along the way, but it's a game that both teams are capable of doing some good things in. So it'd be nice to see how this game plays out.
Yeah, I think Panther Valley has to come into this week and have a week of practice where they're really focused on getting physical. I mean, they need to get that physical brand back. I don't know how they can do it or what they can do in order to get it, but I think they need to because Minersville's going to pound the football. They're going to be tough. Minersville's never an easy place to play, so they need to be able to sustain that pounding the football that Minersville's going to produce. And they also need to just make some plays on offense. Just go out there and play. Don't think too much. Go out there and play. Let the ball fly around a little bit. Try to make some things happen. I don't know if I haven't been able to see Panther Valley as much as you guys have, but the one game I did see him play, everybody looked, kids just got to try to make some plays.
Which game was that?
I saw the Heighton game.
Okay, but I was just curious, I wasn't positive.
Yeah, but I just think that when things are going wrong offensively, so a lot of the times it's not the schemes or any of that stuff. It's just, kids just got to go out there and make some plays, and that's what I think needs to happen this week. And there's nothing else to say about it. I mean, if your offense is struggling that bad, you gotta. Some of these kids gotta step up in the locker room and say, "Listen, I gotta come out and make some plays tonight." Somebody's gotta make plays for them, or it's gonna be the same result week in and week out unless somebody steps up and makes some plays for the Panthers. And as far as Minersville go, this is a home game for them. They're thinking, "Hey, this is a real good chance for us to get another win." So yeah, it should be a nice game on Friday for that.
Yeah, the Panthers need to find a way to compete, and in all aspects of the word, from attitude to desire to what you're putting on the field, just go out and compete. And they haven't been doing that. They thought last week they should have, and we actually in school, talking all week at school, they thought that they would compete against Hanover. Didn't happen. So thinking it and doing it, 2 different things. And if they don't come ready to play tonight, they're going to be driving home 1-8 going, what the heck just happened? Miners will just put one on us. And so, I mean, a little fired up because we see the Panther Valley kids every day, but they got to compete. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and because it's been inconsistent.
Yeah.
You know, it's been inconsistent. You look at PV versus Schuylkill Haven, and you look at PV versus Marion. You look at PV versus Monterey area, you look at PV versus Tamaulipas, like two completely different teams.
Right.
It's been very inconsistent. And now, I saw Minersville against Blue Mountain.
Yeah.
And I will say this, Blue Mountain had a lot more talent on the field. You know, they just did. That's the way it was. Blue Mountain they had a lot more numbers. So those many more numbers, you know, that tends to happen.
Like a single Minersville and
Right.
stuff.
And so, you know, that is what it is. But with that being said, fourth quarter, those Minersville kids were still scrapping. And they were playing hard. And it was even a little testy. And not in a dirty way. They just weren't laying down and taking it.
Yeah.
They were fighting to the final whistle. And, you know, that's what you need to start seeing from Panther Valley in these last 2 weeks, because you know Minersville is saying Minersville is PV, Minersville has nativity. You know what Coach Bation's telling his crew, we're winning these last 2 games.
Sure.
We're getting momentum going into the off season. You got a lot of guys coming back. You know, it's a home game. You know, so that's what they're saying. And Panther Valley, you know, they have North Schuylkill looming in week 10 as their last game. So, you know, these kids gotta think going up to Minersville, this is a good chance for them, you know, to go out there and get their second one of the season. Obviously the best chance you're gonna have,
Sure.
you know, when you compare Minersville and North Schuylkill. So curious to see how this one plays out on Friday night. Next Shenandoah. Shenandoah, you know, they've had their work cut out for them all year. We talk about the numbers game, and this, you know, this is a numbers game. You mentioned last week about, you know, Marion being the class of smaller schools in the AFL. And, you know, Shenandoah, like when I think of small schools, that's a team I think of. Shenandoah, they're dressing like 23 kids, and you know they don't draw from the same area. It's a small area. They're dressing 23 kids, and those 23 kids or whatever it might be. You know, I apologize if I'm off by a little bit, but I know it's close to that. They're going out fighting every week, so you know, really respect the job that Coach Maximic's doing, and those kids going out there fighting every week. And you know, they got a home game against Marion, and I'm curious to see how they fight. You know, we talk about competing. I'm curious to see how Shenandoah competes.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see Marion really, compete hard. They could cement themselves in districts if they win this game.
Sure.
So they're gonna be very well prepared. You're gonna see a heavy dose of snare, and I think you're gonna see them try to dial up the pressure on Shenandoah. I mean, Marion's has a speedy defense all year, no matter even in the games that they've lost. They still have some team speed on the defensive side of the ball. So I think they're going to try and create a lot of pressure on Shenandoah. You know, and it's just, you know, another tough match. We talked about Shenandoah and that brutal schedule they had this year. It's just another tough matchup for them this week.
Yeah, and you pretty much hit it, Pat. You know, they just got to finish strong, finish out the season, compete. You know, I always say it's a lot easier to strap it up every Friday night when you're 8-0 or 7-1 than it is when you're 0-8. So just for these kids still sticking it out with the numbers that they are, and you know the tough season they had, just keep playing hard, guys. That's all you can do.
Yeah, and you know, just speaking of that, Eden McCall, you know, we talked about him a few times throughout the year. You know, talented quarterback for Shenandoah, and you know, at times he's under heavy duress and a lot of pressure. And you know, from what I've seen of him, I saw them live once, saw them on film a couple times. I just couldn't be more impressed with the toughness of this kid. You know, he takes a beating.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of games. And, you know, just taking hits. I mean, and he keeps coming back. He keeps coming back, and it doesn't affect his. It doesn't make him tentative at all. It doesn't affect his aggressiveness. He comes right back the next play, and he's looking to make a play. And Ian McCall, very impressed with the focus and tenacity that he plays with. You know, especially when things aren't always going, you know, as you'd hope they would go for Shenandoah. But Marion, as you said, the chance to cement a spot in playoffs, and you know, they got to like their chances going up to Shenandoah this week. Next, North Schuylkill at Schuylkill Haven. Schuylkill Haven 4-4. You know, we thought coming into the year we had a few games circled. This was one of them. This is one of them. If it wasn't the game, it was top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm interested to see what Haven team shows up. That's what I'm interested. I'm interested to see. Like, I wonder is Haven's confidence shaken, or do they think that they can compete with North Schuylkill? I don't know. I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters which Haven team shows up, to be honest with you. I mean, just to be honest with you, I mean, I was high on them to start the year, and I was still kind of high on them, and they just haven't brought it the way they should have throughout the year. They play up to potential, and for them to have a chance, Will Casella and Ryan Fink have to have big games for them to even have a chance. I mean, they have to have big time games that they had last season, and I just don't see it happening because they just haven't. I mean, Fink had a big game last week, but other than that, none of these guys have just been, they put up some solid numbers, but they just haven't been able to get them going in the right direction. I don't think Schuylkill Haven's defense is as good as it was last year. I think that was very underrated because Will Casella had such a big year. They didn't look at the defense that much, but I expect North Schuylkill to keep rolling. It's like when you find that, like if you have your grandma's recipe for the perfect brownies or all the great ingredients. I feel like that's what North Schuylkill is this year. They have all the right ingredients. They have the perfect recipe for success, and they're just gonna keep bringing new batches of brownies out of the oven.
I like it.
Yeah.
Bringing those tasty brownies out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, North Schuylkill will control the line of scrimmage here, and if they control the line of scrimmage, I mean, Fink and Casella are obviously great athletes, but if there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to run.
Yeah.
And
Cool. Quick sidebar, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was actually talking to some coaches this week, and they mentioned that one thing that gets lost on this one, we're talking about Schuylkill Haven, because they watched the show, and they said, a lot of people are underestimating the linemen that Schuylkill Haven lost.
Yeah.
You look at the big names coming back this year, you look at Fink and you look at Casella, and I know myself, I definitely fell victim to it. You look at that, but you underestimate the losses that they had on the trenches, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it, which goes along with what you're saying about your prediction for Friday night.
Right, and that's where North Schuylkill is so good, and then we give Rapinski a lot of credit, rightfully so. But I mean, any running back in this Anthracite League would say, "Well, I'd love to run behind that offensive line." Now, Rapinski still does a lot of great things on his own.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you're getting the ball running behind, Steinhilber and Dean and Gadizik and those other guys, I mean, it's just a joy if you have lane surrender all the time. So I expect that'll continue. They should control the line of scrimmage in this game, and continue to do what they've been doing.
And speaking of North Schuylkill, I've kind of noticed this the last couple of weeks when I read the recaps of their games, when I see the kids get interviewed. You interview their quarterback and he gives all the credit to the offensive line. You interview the receiver and he gives all the credit to the quarterback. You interview the offensive line and they give all the credit to the running back.
Yeah.
And when you have that type of camaraderie, that type of team, that they just don't care who's getting the credit, they just have that singular focus. Like, pretty cool things can happen.
Yeah.
And it's neat to see.
Yeah, and also when you get interviewed 13 times a week, you get really good at practicing. You know what I mean? After you get interviewed the first 3 times, you're like, oh, I need to say, No, I'm just joking, but I mean, seriously, you probably get interviewed 10 times a week, so when they're used to it by now.
When I was there last week, it was senior night, and I couldn't believe all the seniors that were on that roster whose names we haven't called during a game, or they don't get the ball, they're not in the game. But they're there every day, and then talking with Coach Russo, I do, like, they're the guys that just make them better because they're the scout team during the practices. But seniors who put their time in, even though they're not getting on the field on Friday nights, are so much a part of that, and that's what you need. If you have guys that are unselfish, that can sit on the bench during a game and do what they got to do at practice to make the starters better, then you're tough to beat regardless, and that's what North Schuylkill. So that's what they have going for them this season. So, but I was surprised last week when the benches kind of cleared and a lot of substitutions going on. I was surprised all the seniors are getting run in there. I didn't realize there were that many there. Just unselfish players who were just glad to be part of that program.
Boy, as if they didn't have enough strings.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, North Schuylkill going to Haven, and if Haven was able to pull an upset, it would be huge for them. If not, they're looking to week 10 as a game that they need to win even to have a shot, and some other things to fall in place. So all right, next we got 2 games of the week, co-games of the week for week 9. Huge playoff implications in both games. Both games we're looking forward to. Going to be very exciting. Kind of wish we could be 2 places at once.
Yeah.
But we'll have to split up and figure things out as we go. But we have Lehighton traveling to Tamaqua, and we have Blue Mountain heading to Jim Thorpe. So we're looking at Lehighton, Tamaqua, huge playoff implications for both teams, Lehighton in 3A, Tamaqua in 2A, and then Blue Mountain and Jim Thorpe both in 3A, which would really give one of them an upper hand going into the last week of the season. So first, Lehighton at Tamaqua. First thing that comes to mind, once again, it's going to be what type of game?
Smash mouth.
It's going to be physical.
It'll be kind of like Tamaqua and Blue Mountain was last week. And what Tamaqua found out last week is the same thing they're going to find out this week. You have to have a plan B. You have to have something in your pocket to go to if the run's getting shut down. Because Lehighton is very physical. They have a just as good as offensive defensive line as anyone else. And pretty much I think Tamaqua's getting a carbon copy of what they saw last week with Blue Mountain, with the exception of a little bit better passing game from the Indians. So you better be careful. Not only did this stop Clements, which is a task itself, and Tyler Cannon as a runner, but then you got Tyler Cannon as a quarterback throwing the ball. Tyler Crumb's, exceptional wide receiver, and then the X factors, Rizika all the time. You got to know where he's at. So a lot of matchup problems, potential matchup problems for the Blue Raiders this week, and we'll see how they handle it.
Yeah, Rizika and Crum are the two important guys, I think, this week for the Titans.
I agree, because Tamaqua, physically, they're going to match up.
Yeah, and Crum is a playmaker. He is a playmaker in the passing game, and Rizika is a playmaker not only in the passing game, but he'll come out of the backfield and catch the ball too, real well. So, talking to both these coaches this week, talking to Sam Bonner, he said, there's no doubt in my mind we have to make plays in the passing game this week. I think you're going to, because of that, I think you're going to see Thad Zuber behind center this week more than you're going to see Ernie Schilkel. I think you're going to see Ernie Schilkel in the backfield. I think you're going to see him at slot. I think you're going to see him moved all around the field. I think you're going to see Thad back there because he's a little bit of a better passer. I think he's fully healthy now, so I think he's going to see most of the time at quarterback this week. And for Lehighton, you're going to see Lehighton, I think, Tyler can. This kid can make plays when he needs to. I think they kind of shelf his passing ability because they don't need to show it. And any good coach will tell you, hey, if you don't need to show it, we're not going to show it. Why do we need to show it? If we can hand the ball off to Clemens and then make 10, complete 5, 8 passes a game for big yardage and and score it in the red zone by passing the ball like that, we're going to do it. So I think you're going to see a smash mouth game like you guys said, but I also think you're going to see these guys take some chances on some play action because you have to. You can't just like we said with last week between Tamaqua and Mountain, you can't just push each other around the field all game. And Lehighton does have the better passing attack, so that gives them the advantage, I believe.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Can's a perfect general for this type of team.
Oh yeah.
He makes great decisions. He makes big plays in key spots, and he really does a great job. Tamaqua, I think the key for them is going to be getting into the fourth quarter with that game being within a one possession game. Basically, if Tamaqua gets down 2 touchdowns, say, then they got to go somewhere. They're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They got to go to something that they haven't done consistently throughout the year. But if that's a one possession game in the fourth quarter, Tamaqua has no problem, controlling the tempo, playing the field position game, being physical, and giving themselves a shot at the end. So I think that's what Tamaqua needs to do to make this a game. But a common opponent that you might look at is Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain beat Tamaqua by 1 touchdown. Lehighton beat Blue Mountain by a touchdown.
Good gauge.
So both similar.
Right.
Both very similar. That doesn't always translate when you're comparing teams, but I think in this case it is a very good gauge because you're talking about like some similar type teams.
So who you got? Who you got this week in that game?
Ooh boy.
I got the tribe this week.
You got the tribe this week.
I think Crum gives me the advantage in this one. Crum and Rizika give me the advantage. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
You're not doing the tribe.
No. Last time I did that.
Where's your extra small helmet?
I'm not doing any more hijinks because every time I do a hijink, I lose.
Was it an extra small helmet or is it helmet just that large?
I think it's the second one.
It was a large helmet trying to get on the extra large head.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think?
I also like Lehighton. I think points are going to be very tough to come by for the Raiders. And if their defense has to play lights out, if they can do that, and they can find a way to score a touchdown or 2, I think Tamaqua has a chance. But I think I think Lehighton can lock up better on the outside, 1-on-1, just strictly play the run. Leave Crum and Steigerwald to whoever out there to cover Tamaqua receivers. And I think they just pose too much of a matchup problem with Tyler Crum offensively. And I agree with you. I think Lehighton will win a close one. Low scoring game, close one.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I mean, I love what Tamaqua did this year. I really do. I love the way that they rebounded. I love the way that they competed. And they played the way that they needed to play to compete in these games. With all that being said, I can't imagine I can't imagine them outscoring Lee Heighton. You
Yeah.
know, I just think Lee Heighton has too many playmakers, and I think at some point Crum's going to bust a play. Clem's going to bust a play. Like some of these guys are going to bust a play.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine Tamako throwing up 28 points against Lee Heighton. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
We've been wrong before. But yeah, if I had to, if I had to guess, I think Lee Heighton goes in the row and takes care of business. My guess would be 2 touchdowns. That's what I think is going to happen in that game. So moving on to our second co-game of the week: Blue Mountain at Jim Thorpe. Boy, this is interesting. You have Jim Thorpe at 7-1.
Mm-hmm.
You have Blue Mountain at 6-2. You have both of these teams in the thick of things for District 11, AAA. You wonder, you don't want to say the loser is out of districts because you don't know how things are going to shake out, but it's a real good chance.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real good chance that the loser, we know this, the loser needs some things to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to, the loser, it's going to be very, very difficult to get in districts. Highly unlikely,
Yeah,
I would say. You agree with that?
Oh, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody above these guys in 3A has very favorable matchups this
Yes.
week, where it looks like the teams on top are going to win again this week, as far as on paper goes. So this one is huge. This might be, loser might find their way out on the outside looking in definitely.
Okay, this game, I think Jim Thorpe's got to make some big plays. Offensively, Jim Thorpe, they've had some quick strike plays throughout the year. They need to do that. They can't get into, in the trenches, tug of war battle with Blue Mountain, because Blue Mountain's just too strong, too physical, and they'll wear them down. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think Snisky and the Olympians offense has to get some things done through the air this week. I mean, Snisky has a nice arm. They have a lot of weapons that they could use at those spots. So I think this week they need to get. I think last week they just too many things were going wrong, and the pass game just wasn't going to work for them. Mm-hmm. This week I think if they can maybe mix it up on that first drive, maybe get 3 or 4 pass completions, it can set them up for the game. So I think it's key for Jim Thorpe if they want to win. They have to get some things going in the passing game this week.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think Shane Sinsky has to play the best game of the season, or possibly even his career up to this point. He needs to be the playmaker this week, because as you saw last week with Tamaqua, you're not going to sit there and run the ball against Blue Mountain.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up 3-4 yards here and there, but you're not going to consistently maintain drives around the football. So he has to be big. Coach Miller, the offense coordinator, has to reach in those bag of tricks again. They came out with a beautiful trick play against North Schuylkill last week, where they got their quarterback out into a pattern, and Siskey actually caught a pass for 44 yards from Ryan Carroll, which was their biggest play of the night. So, I expect some things like that to come out of the Jim Thorpe offense again. But as you saw, Tamaqua moved the ball through the air against Blue Mountain, and Tamaqua's not a passing team by any means. So I think with Carroll on the outside, a kid like McElmoyle has to have a big game. Heller maybe in a screen game or something other than running the football. But if they get their playmakers in positions to make plays, and Siskey can put the ball on his receivers. He had some open guys last week, and he missed some guys. A couple that probably should have been caught, but a couple that he just missed. So if he takes advantage of the opportunities that he has, puts balls on guys, and can maintain some drives and get in the end zone, I think Jim Thorpe will play a close game this week.
Yeah, I think Jim Thorpe needs to get on top early. I think they need it. You talk about making teams uncomfortable,
Right.
and that'll make Blue Mountain uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
If Jim Thorpe can get up,
I don't think Blue Mountain has the type of offense either that will be able to, if they get down 2 or 3 touchdowns, be able to come back with a fury. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes, we haven't seen that.
Yeah, no, we haven't. No.
Right.
So I think Jim Thorpe needs to jump out early to give themselves a shot. My X factor in this game is Kerstetter from Blue Mountain, tight end, big kid, sophomore. I believe ranked number 1 in his class right now. 6'2", about 220, and can move. Saw him on the basketball court. Saw him on the football field against Minersville 2 weeks ago. Very impressive, and I think he's the X factor. I think he's a very tough matchup for Jim Thorpe, because you're prepared for that running game. You mentioned the game that Hall had last week, and Greenwald, we know what he's been doing throughout the year. And I think Kerstetter's just, I think he's primed for a breakout game, I do. And I think he's the X factor in this game. So this game is going to be real interesting. What do you think? I'm
going to go, Jim Thorpe revealed to me last week, I just don't think they have the offensive line play that's as strong as a North Schuylkill, Blue Mountain, or Lee Heighton. I think Lee Heighton's offensive line showed, and their defensive line showed they can play with North Schuylkill. And I think Blue Mountain's offensive line, defensive line matched up well with North Schuylkill, played to their physicality. They just didn't have enough weapons to take care of business on the offensive end. So I'm going to go with Blue Mountain. I just think they have the better team in the trenches, and I think, this late in the season when kids are banged up and kids are tired, I think that's where you win your games, in the trenches. And I think the Blue Mountain has the better offensive line and better defensive front, so I'm going to go with the Eagles on Friday.
Are you going to be allowed back in the Jim Thorpe Legion?
I think so.
Okay.
I agree with the fact that Blue Mountain has a better line. Okay, they're strong and physical, just like North Schuylkill was last year. Jim Thorpe has to figure out a way to counter that. They have to do a better job, obviously, stopping the run than they did last week. I think Mark Rosenberger will do that. I think he'll have his team ready to play. I saw him briefly after the North Schuylkill game because he wasn't in a happy mood, so I just kind of strolled right by as I cleaned my equipment. But
We've all been there.
I think Coach Rosenberger is going to figure out a way to get his defense to stop this running game. And if he does that, I think they can make enough plays offensively. And this is going to be a crazy one. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be some wild stuff going on. I think it might be high scoring. But I like the Olympians bouncing back this week at home.
Interesting.
In a wild one. It's going to be weird.
You going to be there?
No, yes, I will be there actually. Yes, internet game again.
The sweet sounds of John Cooper on the
Yes.
radio.
I get to follow Jim Thorpe through this little stretch run here at the end, so I'm excited about that.
All right.
And I'm expecting a wild one. There's going to be weird things happening Friday night.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I want to buy into Jim Thorpe taking care of business at home. I do, but I can't. Seeing both teams in person, seeing Blue Mountain's line, seeing how physical they are. They're really the only line this year that held their own against North Schuylkill. Mm-hmm. Now, North Schuylkill ended up wearing them down, but they really held their own for a half. I don't want to say they outplayed them, but they were right there and even into the third quarter. And I don't know if Jim Thorpe has a match for that right now. I think Blue Mountain comes on strong. I think they're smelling class right now. They're seeing themselves bouncing up a bit. They know that they got to take care of business. And Jim Thorpe 7-1 is a lot of points right there sitting for them. I think Blue Mountain wins a close one. I think they control the line of scrimmage, and I think Blue Mountain wins a close one against Jim Thorpe. So yeah, I got both road teams in our co-games of the week. So there you have it. Those are our 2 games of the week. We're going to take a look at the district standings right now. So what are we going to look at first? Let's take a look at AAA.
Yep.
What do you think there, Hurls?
I think that Jim Thorpe, they have a tough road here with Blue Mountain and Lehighton. Lehighton, not an easy road either with Tamaqua and Jim Thorpe. We have Blue Mountain at Jim Thorpe, and then a rivalry game versus Schuylkill Haven. You got all the rivalry games here. Lehighton, Jim Thorpe, big rivalry playing for the Route 209 trophy, and then Blue Mountain and Schuylkill Haven. I actually think Blue Mountain and school is in school, isn't it? The school Kayla Haven address, I believe.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
Yes.
If Jim Thorpe can beat Blue Mountain this week, I would have no reservations about them beating the Tribe, and that's only because that game every year is crazy. That's a huge rivalry game. That's nuts. And the Heighton, if there's one team right now I wouldn't want to play in the Anthracite Football League besides North Schuylkill would be the Heighton because they're rolling. I think they've outscored their opponents 110 to 21 over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's setting up there for some drama. We just got to find out what happens this week. You know what I mean? It's all about this week. It really is to set up next week.
If you look at Jim Thorpe, Lehighton, Blue Mountain, if any of those teams can win their last 2 games, they're in.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
If any of them can win their last 2, they're in. You look at the top 3 here: Becca, Southern Lehigh, Saucon Valley. They're in.
Yeah.
You can't imagine any of those 3 teams not getting in. So you got Becca, you got Southern Lehigh, you got Saucon Valley. So you have Jim Thorpe, Lehighton, Blue Mountain, all playing for the last spot. Now, what's going to be interesting to see is if none of those teams finish out their last 2 games going 2-0, and they split, and then how those points are going to shake out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, the top 3 they all favorable matchups this week again. I think Becca and Saucon are both playing 0-8 teams. Southern's hosting somebody's 3-5. I forget what the teams were. So we expect all those teams to go to 8-1. So like I said, 3 teams battle for 2 spots, and if they played, I beat you, you beat him, and it all see how it all.
Saucon Valley plays Palisades the last game of the year, which they could.
Yes,
that's a tough game.
That'll be a big one. Yeah. But this week the top 3 should cruise. So obviously whoever comes out on top this week, if the Lehighton and Blue Mountain get wins, then that puts Jim Thorpe on the outside looking in. If Thorpe finds a way to win, then Blue Mountain's on the outside. But still it's going to come down to week 10. It's going to be interesting. I have no idea how they figure out all these points and
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
so hard to
how we
figure out.
carry it
now.
out.
It's so hard.
6 decimal places to decide who's
It's-
making playoffs. You know,
It's crazy. I
just,
tried to figure it out for work last year, and
Yeah.
I had to turn it over to Rod Heckman.
I wish they'd use the baseball basketball formula. If you're 500, you go to the playoffs. Have fun.
Oh man, that'd be crazy.
You know, it's interesting. Like you look at these. So let's look at Saucon Valley real quick. They have a .68 rating.
Yeah.
Okay. Saucon Valley 7-1. Their rating is .68.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Blue Mountain is 6-2. Their rating is .57. All right. So Blue Mountain's like .09 behind them with one less win.
Yeah.
Allentown Central Catholic is 2-6, and they have a .50 rating. So they're only .07 behind Blue Mountain,
Yeah.
and they're 2-6.
No, obviously, Blue Mountain will gain a lot of points this week if they beat Jim Thorpe.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's going to change a lot of things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but the point system's a bit crazy. It's
Yeah.
difficult to figure out.
Yeah.
Bottom line, Becca, Southern Lehigh, Saucon Valley, unless something really weird happens, those three are going to get in.
Yeah.
And Jim Thorpe, Lehigh, and Blue Mountain are going to be fighting for that last spot. So, we look like we're going to get, in the AFL, one team that looks pretty good to get in.
Yeah.
And then it looks like you might have a team or two in the Eastern Conference.
Well, you can only have one team if Blue Mountain and Jim Thorpe are left out. Jim Thorpe, Blue Mountain's going to be left out of that because they're both in the same Eastern Conference subdivision or whatever.
Okay. So out of these three teams, you're looking at two of them making playoffs and one
Yeah, one of them
down
going
the
to be
outside.
looking at. Yeah, one of them's going to be out. Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7-3, and you're not.
Yeah.
Just like Tamako last year.
Yeah, it's like if
You know,
that doesn't.
Schuylkill got in because they're in the same thing too, so they got out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, year in, year out, there's somebody that's left out like that.
Yeah.
7-3 or even 8-2, and if it just doesn't scream that changes need to be made, then I don't know what does. But
Yeah.
no one seems to be in a hurry to change anything, and it's so there's going to be a team that's 8-2 or 7-3 that won't get to play in the postseason game this year. Which is ridiculous, but
It is ridiculous.
yeah, it is what it is.
We'll rant about that a little more in our
Week 10,
show.
after
We'll dedicate
all,
our
yeah.
week 10 to all our rants. As we get closer to Festivus, we're air our grievances.
Exactly.
All right, double A picture. We got North Schuylkill 8-0. We got Northwestern Lehigh 7-1. Those two teams, they're in.
North Schuylkill officially clinched last week.
Yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, they're officially in.
And Northwestern Lehigh is about as close as
Yeah,
they
I think they're.
All right, so then you got Palisades, Northern Lehigh, Palmerton, Tamaqua. So those six are kind of vying for 4 spots. Now Salisbury could throw a wrench in the work if they could pull an upset. Salisbury's 4-4; they could get some points. But let's take a look at those. Let's take a look at 4, 5, and 6. Northern Lehigh, Palmerton, Tamaqua. I think those are the 3 interesting ones. So and all of them have interesting schedule left. So let's take a look at Northern Lehigh first.
Well, North Lehigh has to play Northwestern Lehigh this week, so a tough task in front of them. Northwestern Lehigh just pulling on Palmer and pretty good last week. So big test for the Bulldogs right away. So if they don't pull the upset, then they're looking at 5-4 after this week, which will probably obviously drop them down the ladder a little bit. So Palmerton still on the outside looking in, and Tamaqua, like we said, this huge matchup against Lehigh, a 3A school. If Tamaqua gets this win, big points for them, and they could jump up the ladder. They're pretty good too. So I think if Tamaqua wins this one, it's going to and North Lehigh loses, Tamaqua might leapfrog Palmerton and get into that 4th spot and maybe be able to clinch it next week.
Well, let's be honest. If Tamako beats the Heighton, we would expect them to be married, and they would be in. So if Tamako would get a win over the Heighton this week, that would put them in a great position.
Absolutely.
Palmerton, you have to take care of business at Salisbury. Salisbury is one of those teams this year that they've played some good teams, really tough.
And I saw Salisbury scrimmage Panther Valley.
Yeah.
Salisbury has some athletes.
Oh yeah.
I was impressed
They
with
always
their
do.
quarterback.
Yeah.
They were much improved than the Salisbury we saw the last couple of years.
Yeah, they have some athletes and they can make some plays. Palmerton, they need to take care of business, and then it's gonna be tough for Northern Lehigh to beat Northwestern this week. They just got pretty well handled by Southern, and that Northwestern Southern game was probably the best game of the year in the Colonial League game. Those two right there are the 2 best teams in the Colonial League, and that was a really good game. So you would expect Northern Lehigh to have a tough time this week against Northwestern. So like we said in the beginning of the season, that Northern Lehigh Palmerton game is going to be huge for the AA playoffs. So you can end up with the winner getting in there, and then Tamaqua has the toughest road out of anybody with the Heighton and Marion at the end of the year. because that Tamako Marion game is a big rivalry game too. So, hey, it's this Double A thing. The Double A is shaping up just like the Triple A. You know what I mean? It's a lot of rivals and coming down to that.
Yeah, what I'm curious to see. So we have Northern Lehigh, Palmerton, Tamaka all at 5-3.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that they could be a 6-4 team could get in.
Yeah.
Which I never would have anticipated early in the year.
Uh-huh.
But you look at the schedule that these guys play. Is it possible for Northern Lehigh to go 1-1? Northwestern and Palmerton, sure. Is it possible for Palmerton to go 1-1? Salisbury, Northern Lehigh.
Yeah.
Is it possible for Tamako to go to 1-1 with Lehigh and Marion?
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be if any of them could obviously win their last two, they're sitting pretty.
All right.
If they get to 7-3.
Yeah, I won't even. I mean, it's impossible for us to figure out what that's going to be.
Right.
Right.
If they all finish 6-4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we have no idea how that'll play out, but it's
No.
but it's possible. And at the end of the year, you never would have thought a 6-4 team would have a shot to get in districts, but here we are, and it looks
Yeah,
like
considering
they got a
last
shot.
year Northwestern and North Schuylkill were both 7-3 and then
in Eastern
So does
Conference.
that
Yeah.
mean if Salisbury and Pine Grove win out, then also get the 6-4, then we might have 5 teams at 6-4?
Then we're gonna have to take a statistics class
Yeah.
before our last show to figure out who's going where.
That's for the guys who make the big bucks to figure out.
Yeah. Not the YouTube buck.
Not the YouTube bucks.
All right. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the single A bracket. You have Pius at 10th at 6-2. You have Marion at 5-3. You have Williams Valley at 5-3. Tri Valley 4-4. That's our top 4 teams right now. You have Monte Area at 5 with a 3-5 record and a very favorable schedule. And then you have Schuylkill Haven at 6. They're 4-4. However, as we know,
So favorable schedule.
not so favorable schedule. Obviously, Haven has North Schuylkill Blue Mountain. The schedule's not favorable because they have 2 extremely tough opponents. However, you get a win, there's big points there. Whereas Monte is not going to be getting big points. Monte is playing Columbia Monturvo Tech. They will get points for the AAA if they take care of business, but not so much for the wins. And then they got Shenandoah. So, boy, tough to figure out how this is going to shake out. You got to think Pius and Marion look good. Okay? And you got to think Williams Valley looks solid.
Yes.
So let's assume that those 3 get in, just for fun. Let's assume those 3 get in. How do you see that? How do you see that shaking out between Tri Valley, Monte Area, Schuylkill Haven? What
Well,
do you think?
it all depends how Tri Valley does again. I mean, they should beat East Juniata. That Newport game, they beat Williams Valley by 3. So Tri Valley can, Tri Valley really shot themselves in the foot with that Pine Grove loss last week. That was a tough one. You know what I mean? So I would say that for Tri Valley, it all depends on that Newport game. If they can beat Newport, then they're in. Do you know what I mean? So it would be tough for either Monterey or Schuylkill Haven to even get in over them. I think even if Schuylkill Haven were to win over one of the unless they beat North Schuylkill, then they're going to get a ton of points.
Right.
But yeah, Haven has the toughest road. It's not even close to win out. But if Haven goes to 5-5, they have a great shot as getting in over a 6-4 team just because of beating somebody with that many wins.
They'd have to be either North Schuylkill or Blue Mountain,
yeah.
and which would be a big point game.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be interesting. Like you said, I would say Pius, Marion, Williams Valley. Juniata game will be tough. But I would expect Williams Valley. I mean, Williams Valley knows they're here every year. They know how to play in these types of situations. They're well coached. I would expect them to play well there. So, I think it comes down to Tri Valley and Mono. I think it's going to come down to Tri Valley and Mono area for the last spot.
Yeah, I
Boy,
agree.
how big right now is Monte Area's win over Haven?
Oh, huge!
I mean,
It'd be flipped. It'd be the thing.
Right.
it'd be
yeah.
flipped.
It's such a huge season swinging game for both teams. It's unbelievable when you take a look at this right now.
If you told me Mono area would beat Haven, almost beat Jim Thorpe, and almost beat Marion, I would have said you're insane.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season.
And beat Minersville 21-20.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I
love it. High school sports.
I know.
I think my hunch is that Tri Valley and Monterey both finish at 5-5, and it's going to come down to those points again. And right now it looks like with Monterey Monterey plays CMVT, which is a 3A school, correct?
Yes.
Is it still 3A for football also?
Yeah.
So, so that might be enough points to push them over the top and sneak past Tri Valley. But I think if Monterey wins out at 5-5, and Tri Valley gets tripped up by one of these last 2 teams, The Newport game looks like, just on paper, I see Newport 6-2. It's at Newport, so that's not a gimme by any means. So if they both end up 5-5, Monmouth might outpoint them and sneak in for that 4th spot.
What I'm curious to see what happens is if Schuylkill Haven finishes 5-5. Let's say they can't,
How disgusted would they be?
They can't beat North
If
Schuylkill, but they beat Blue Mountain, which is it's a backyard rival. That could certainly happen.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
curious to see how that points would shake out. It'll be interesting to see. But if that would happen, then all of a sudden the single A bracket, you're looking at a 5-5 team that no one really wants any part of.
No.
So it'll be interesting. It'll take some more shape next week, and that's how the district standings are in football. That's the unique thing about football. There's really no room for error. It's not like these
10
other
games,
sports.
that's it.
So that's it. You got to bring it every week, and one slip up. We talked about Monty. They're 2 touchdowns away from being 5-3 instead of 3-5.
Yeah.
But we'll take another look at it next week. This is our week 9 show, so next week when we come in, we're gonna really focus a little more on playoffs and see where teams are at and kind of look at where teams are at as a whole heading into the last week of the season and what they're looking for and maybe what the future looks like a little bit, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So that is our week 9 show. Coop, anything else?
Nope, just looking forward to being at Jim Thorpe this weekend for a wild one. Friday night.
Carl's bring out this week.
I'm actually marrying Shenandoah this week. I took off last Friday to celebrate my friend Adam Busocker's wedding. So congratulations, Adam. Adam was a member of the 2004 10-0 Anthracite Football League championship team. So a bunch of the Red Swarm were in attendance out in Pittsburgh this weekend. So it was a great time. But
Were they listening to the Sweet Sounds of John Cooper on the internet?
Well, we had a little bit of a dinner thing beforehand, and once John Cooper texted me the score, we decided not to listen to the sweet sounds of him.
I thought they might want to stay at their festivities rather than going back to their rooms to listen to football.
But yeah, I'm just excited to see how it's all going to pan out here. We have a great week in football again, and it's been a great season so far. I'm just looking forward to see how it all pans out.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be back next week. TNT, Collision Football's Thursday Night Tailgate.